Wake up.
Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice.
Greetings world. We are ANON DK. As we have progressed through the web of the elite in our videos, we have finally gotten to a point where we can finally expose to you the end goal of the elite, the one and every one of their agendas bring them to. We have explained thoroughly the levels of the elite, the mentality of the elite, the symbols of the elite, the tools and puppets of the elite, the false flags and hoaxes of the elite, the controlled opposition of the elite, the genealogy of the elite, the history of the elite, the agendas and future plans of the elite. It has all been laid out for you, for those with ears to hear, and eyes to see. So let us begin a new journey, into a deeper understanding. To understand the purpose of this final goal of the elite, we must take a look at what exactly the elite are. This topic will be covered in multiple videos as it is quite large, and, as we always do, we will start with the basics. As usual with these types of deep topics, there is much more information, sources, and such, on our website about this. DNA tells us everything about us, our past, our possible future, our present. It tells us who we came from. When we decided to get to know the elite, we decided to start at the core, their blood, their DNA. It is this that binds them. It is this that drives them. So at long last, we feel we have been able to bring you up to the level that those who will understand the only true goal, the grand finale. We will bring you down the bloody path of the elite, and expose to you the real reason behind their DNA mining and altering. But first, you must understand what your blood is, what it says about you. Let us begin. Basic breakdown of the human blood types. Type A has antigens on the red blood cells and B antibodies in the plasma. Type B has B antigens and antibodies. Type Alberta has both A and B antigens and no blood type antibodies in the plasma. Type O has no antigens and both A and B antibodies in the plasma. Everyone has up to 342 antigens. Antigens are molecules that can trigger the production of antibodies which make up the immune system. Everyone has different antigens. That's what makes every single person so drastically different. Your body is made of 60 to 90 trillion cells. Each cell is its own ecosystem with highly complex functions including cell energy production, waste removal, cell membrane function, the nucleus command control center, and more. Your body makes 10 million red blood cells every hour, has a capacity to heal damaged tissues almost everywhere. Your skin and intestines are being slowly replaced with new cells every minute. Your immune system is incredibly complex, all thanks to your own DNA. On top of all this, you are born with innate behaviors and the ability to develop, all on your own. You naturally develop the behavioral skills to walk, talk, focus your eyes, digest foods, eliminate waste, sweat, breathe and much more. All while your body accomplishes billions of chemical reactions every second without you even knowing it, because of your unaltered DNA as it is naturally Perfect. Deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA, is your genetic code. It contains words made from just 4 letters: A, C, G, and T. These letters correspond to the 4 nitrogenous bases: adenine, cytosine, guanine, and thymine, the basic parts of one cell and how it works. DNA is the blueprint of life that carries the genetic information in your cells. DNA governs the development and functioning of your body. Also in this cell is a similar nucleic acid called mRNA, who is the messenger, carrying orders called codons, back and forth. The cellular machinery for protein synthesis are like contractor and workers. So let us break it down. In DNA, the 4 bases A, C, G, and T are arranged in a long chain to provide the blueprint for building a specific protein. These letters are arranged in a chain with 2 strands forming a double-stranded molecule. One strand has the coding information and the complementary strand is used as a template to correct damage or mutations to the coding strand. The long code is then divided up into groups of 3 letters. These 3-letter words, called codons, are responsible for taking the genetic code to the protein synthesis machinery in the cell. This done through the mRNA as mentioned before. Codons that are similar to each other correspond to amino acids with similar chemical properties. mRNA codons are read by another nucleic acid called the transfer RNA or tRNA. tRNA correctly aligns specific amino acids in the newly forming protein. As one would imagine, all 4 of the bases, letters, in your genetic code are important for producing the correct protein, producing them in the appropriate amounts, producing them at the right time, producing them without flaws. And these are just a couple of the examples of the information contained in the DNA code and how it produces it. Mainstream scientists tell us the lie that only 2 to 5% of the human genome is functional, and over 90% is junk. This obvious lie will be exposed today. You are more than you are told. No mainstream anyone will tell you truth. Look deeper. Ask questions. The lie began in the 70s by Francis Crick, who did not himself understand the pattern of DNA and assumed that since he did not understand it, it must be junk. As usual, the world never looked further. In the early 2000s, geneticists mapped out the genome and still could not make sense of 97% of its 3.2 billion bases. Thus the claim of junk DNA continued. In the 1990s, a team of Russian linguists led by Dr. Peter Garyaev discovered that the genetic code in this so-called junk DNA they discovered it follows uniform grammar and usage rules virtually identical to those of human language. It turns out that the junka was Latin with the intimations of intelligence, purpose and meaning. Intelligence, purpose and meaning. In recent years, yet another group has exposed the DNA coding. This group called ENCODE has figured out the switches, signals and signposts embedded throughout the entire length of human DNA, confirming the Russians' discoveries. Confirming also that using correct light and sound frequencies, we can cause jumping DNA or transposons within the so-called junk DNA to move from one location to another and recode the organism at the physical level. Negative words, frequencies, arguments, curse words, leave us feeling bad even after the issue is resolved. For a reason, it contracts the DNA molecule, compressing it, making it cramp up. Positive words and love frequencies heal and refresh us, unwinding or decompressing the DNA exposed to them. It is always nice to hear nice things from people. It is vital to life to feel love. Words and frequencies are so much more important than the meaning of the words spoken. It affects not only our mind, thoughts, emotions, but it affects everything in us down to our very DNA. Only the love-based emotions stimulate DNA to decompress so that messenger RNA can access codes for healing. Saul Leckman states regarding cell biologist Glenn Rain's discoveries that hatred, depression, Boredom and the like cause DNA to close down on itself, severely limiting access to genetic information necessary for healing. While Western researchers cut single genes from the DNA strands and insert them elsewhere, as though we are living thousands of years before the Dark Ages, the Russians enthusiastically worked on devices that can influence the cellular metabolism through suitable modulated radio and light frequencies and thus repair genetic defects. As usual, we see the Russians working deeper while the West throws away most of the natural and real product. Everything is better when it's artificial. At least that is what they want you to believe. This is a common theme in humanity. Always thinking this is the best generation. We have it all. We know it all. Only to realize one day that we truly know nothing at all, and we are far behind the times. What else are you not told about DNA? The moment a sperm cell touches an egg cell, there is a spark of light, frequency. Humans have light in us, which is why we have an aura. In 1984, Garriev made a startling discovery. He found that an in vitro DNA sample, in a test tube, had the ability to attract and harness coherent laser light, causing it to spiral, creating the DNA helix. After removing the DNA sample, the photons continued to spiral as if the DNA was still there. After blowing the phantom DNA away with gaseous nitrogen, it returns in 5 to 8 minutes. Garriev also remarked that sound waves radiated by the DNA molecules were registered in these experiments. In every moment, DNA harnesses sound and light. Frequency. Garriev and his research group also succeeded in proving that chromosomes damaged by X-rays, for example, can be repaired. They even captured information patterns of a particular DNA and transmitted it onto another, thus reprogramming cells to another genome. Through the correct vibrations, frequencies, the entire DNA information was transmitted without any of the side effects or disharmonies encountered when cutting out and reintroducing single genes from the DNA. All this by simply applying vibration instead of the archaic cutting away procedure the elite in the West is so fond of. The elite can change your DNA simply through frequency. Intentional design is not the same as intelligent design. This is the core of the elite's deception to cloud you from being able to see what is truth and allow yourself to become their product through your DNA deception. Meanwhile, the USA government is working on a law allowing companies to strong-arm their employees into taking genetic tests and then sharing that data with unregulated third parties as well as the employer. Employees that resist could face penalties of thousands of dollars. But this is old news. It was approved in the Senate December 13th, in the House April 8th, and signed by Bush April 24, 2008. For the typical reason of national security, President Bush ordered the law to gather the DNA of all citizens. It started before then but has now increased rapidly. Records are kept in government genomic biobanks and considered governmental property. The DNA taken at birth from every citizen is essentially owned by the government, and every citizen becomes a servant of government-sponsored genetic research. For many generations now, all birth certificates, bank accounts, and the like, have been logged by the government, and anything logged by the USA government is copied and saved in the Vatican as well. Welcome to the New World Order. In England, they decided doctors should look at problem children, and have those children reported, and their DNA taken in case they would become criminals. Senior police forensics experts believe genetic samples should be studied, because it may be possible to identify potential criminals as young as age 5. The first DNA bank in the world was opened in London. Now ancestry websites offer DNA testing so they can save and own your DNA. The pace at which DNA mining is increasing is terrifying indeed, and must be stopped. Genetic testing is used for purposes found immoral in the Hippocratic medical tradition. They create prejudice. They make an individual less useful to society in the eye of the elite. available for the purpose of killing that person, as has been done in totalitarian systems throughout history. Likewise, the use of genetic testing in attempts to breed a super race would be immoral and unethical, in every respect. We are human, regardless of age, regardless of genetic makeup. We have rights. Rights to privacy, rights to freedom. DNA collection programs are offered as screening requirements to detect treatable illnesses and violent tendencies. They will always sell everything to you as safe. They will always deceive you. So they tell you they need your DNA in order to heal the sick, keep you safe. It makes it sound nicer when it is said in that way. Just remember, they give you nothing for free. You are the product in the eyes of the elite. They hate you and do all they do, only to destroy you. In the world of tomorrow, which will be here before we blink, your DNA will be collected or you will no longer be able to work, drive your car, enter your city, attend school, buy food. You will allow them to collect your DNA to own you. Your employer will choose you based on your DNA, so will your lovers, and soon parents will choose their babies based on their augmented DNA. Perhaps your employer's insurance will be less expensive if they hire someone without the medical issues, weight problems, family history, genetics, DNA that you have. Maybe your DNA contains a strand the elite have labeled as violent, or lazy, or criminal, or argumentative. Maybe the next time you try to get a date and she can see your DNA, she will not like the full picture. The ways this will be used and abused to strip you of everything is endless. Once you allow it, you will never get it back. You give your DNA and the government owns it, and you fully. You have one chance, one shot to delay this. Once you allow it to happen, you will be a patented product of the elite. You and everyone connected to your DNA. Think of the implications. Think it through. Think about how this will affect every single aspect of life, and everything will be based off of it. If you allow this to continue, you will be responsible for destroying the human race. That is what will happen. That is the end goal. It will not take long, especially when you give them your information on a silver plate so they can more easily target the undesired specifically through their own DNA. In 2015, Michael Farzan, an immunologist at Scripps, started the first human trial called immunoprophylaxis by gene transfer, or a GPG, is being sold as a new and different type of vaccination, a new so-called cure. It is a form of gene manipulation. Scientists isolate the genes that produce powerful antibodies against certain diseases, then synthesize artificial versions. The genes are placed into viruses and injected into human tissue, usually muscle. Genetically modified humans. The GMO food apparently is not bad enough. The viruses invade human cells with their DNA payloads. They cure you by giving you a disease that attacks and alters your DNA. The synthetic gene is incorporated into your own DNA permanently, if all goes well, and that is a big if. The fake synthetic genes instruct your cells to begin manufacturing powerful antibodies. What they do not tell you in the advertising of this new money-making technology is that it permanently alters your DNA. This will never go away. Your natural DNA will be taken over. Goodbye to you. This started in 2015. Alteration of the human genetic makeup. Permanently changing your DNA. A group of researchers from the University of Washington have shown that it is possible to encode malicious software into physical strands of DNA. This is an obvious fact, as anything and everything can and has been hacked. Everyone thinks it is a good idea to continue giving away your rights, your privacy, your very own DNA, while at the same time you lock your doors at night, as if there is a point.
Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology.
What most people don't realize is there's an arms race going on between the major powers for the super soldier, something that's beyond human. That's the goal. And that sounds bizarre only to the uninformed.
A single species is defined by the isolation of our genetics, reproductive isolation. But when you begin to take genes from different species to mix together all of the genetics that is available among all animals, and also to design new alterations to the genetics, well, reproductive isolation really doesn't have much meaning anymore. And so you can imagine all sorts of forms and that will evolve in the future.
In 2016, 150 scientists from all over the world gathered behind locked doors in a secret meeting. They discussed gathering DNA from newborns without parental knowledge, in order to use it to create DNA that did not consist of any natural DNA. This practice is called CRISPR. Bill and Melinda Gates, who are huge funders of all things depopulation, have also provided significant funding to the University of North Carolina to develop ultrasound infertility technology that could render human sperm inviable for up to 6 months. The elite genetically modify our food, which in turn alters and kills your DNA. They poison the water with fluoride and other drugs to kill and destroy your DNA. They poison the air with chemtrails to destroy your DNA. Chemtrails contain diseases and chemicals which affect your state of consciousness. They can produce apathy, which works in conjunction with fluoridation of the water, as well as aspartame and drugs. Fluoride disables the willpower section of the brain, impairing the left occipital lobe. Fluoride and selenium enable people to hear voices. With these few elite agendas being carried out on you every day, with these alone, most will be barely able to wake up because the damage is too severe, regardless how it is explained to them. That is the price paid for everyone's lack of responsibility and vigilance, allowing the elite to carry on the way they do for generations. All of that happens to most humans on a daily basis. On top of that, designer diseases and viruses have been manufactured for decades, made to target specific DNA codes, such as Ebola and Zika, the bird flu in Asia. The areas they plant the diseases are quarantined. Everyone's DNA is taken and recorded. They take the infected people's DNA sequencing and watch how it is transferred and mutates from person to person. The elite like to watch. They like to see you suffer and die slowly.
And this was an article from Veterans Today. I was looking into the Ebola virus, and the article dated October 14th, 2014, Ebola, very crafty false flag vaccination blackmail. In the middle of the article, there is a very interesting YouTube video entitled Leaked Pentagon Video, Flu Vaccine Used to Modify Human Brain. The video is of the presentation made by Department of Defense officials discussing how to eliminate religion by introducing a virus vaccine into the human body. This virus vaccine would manipulate the DNA of the person, and they have already succeeded in doing this in the Islamic Arabian countries by airborne flu viruses. This has already taken place. And the reason they do this is that they wish to alter the genes in a person's body, the genes that are responsible for a person feeling attraction towards faith. They have pinpointed areas of the human brain through CT scans of the brain, and they are able to determine if a person, by the CT scans of the brain, whether a person has been reading religious text.
It is confirmed since 2011. The Middle Eastern nations were infected in biowarfare, blindly, which altered their DNA just as it happens repeatedly in South America and Africa, as well as Asia and North America. There is nothing new or shocking about these human experiments. They have been going on for thousands of years, and today it simply happens on a larger scale. They test these diseases and viruses, watch how they react on specific genes, then they can adjust them and attack again. They have always preferred bioweapons, since before the time of the Black Plague. Nothing is new. Let us look at some slow kill methods they use on us. Frequencies have been altered and forced on us through music, telephones, computers, various frequency-emitting towers and machines, Wi-Fi routers, cell phones, cordless phones, baby monitors, electric blankets, alarm clocks. All of these devices are damaging to our DNA. Not only this, but this damage is passed down to our children. We are surrounded by electromagnetic frequencies, cell towers, transformers, CERN, HRP. These frequencies are purposely disruptive and damaging to our DNA. Dr. Andrija Puharich in the 60s was studying the effects of HRP and electromagnetic waves on humans. He presented the mental effects of ELF waves to military leaders who ignored him. The Russians discovered which ELF frequencies did what to the human brain, and began zapping the US Embassy in Moscow in the mid-70s with electromagnetic waves, varying the signal, including focusing on 10 Hz, which puts people into a hypnotic state. A frequency weapon was used recently in Cuba. Nikola Tesla revealed in 1901 power could be transmitted through the ground using ELF waves. Nothing stops or weakens these signals. A machine for this was even found in an American church to help the congregation believe. Are you in control of your mind? Are you in control of your DNA? Damage to DNA obviously causes health problems. Alzheimer, cancer, and bipolar, depression, arthritis and everything else. It increases the likelihood of miscarriage. Other effects of frequency attacks are aggravated allergies, disturbed sleep, night sweats, heart palpitations, muscle and nerve pain, waking tired, daytime irritability, bedwetting in children. Radio frequencies have effects such as headaches, irritability, memory problems, inability to concentrate. These things all happen because of DNA damage, cell death, genetic dissolution, the frequencies, the chemtrails, the poisoned genetically altered food and water. These attacks done on us by the elite are not regulated or given in doses according to each person's limits. These things are forced on you and everyone's tolerance is different.